Hey everybody, Ross here from Gamertagged and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at controllers specifically for the PlayStation 4, looking at the DualShock 4 and other third-party options for your particular requirements. There are a lot to choose from, but we have picked the best two third-party controllers in our opinion, and also a bit of a wild card option as well. So we're going to be taking a look at not only the features and the benefits from these all of these controllers, but also some of their shortcomings as well and how they compare to the DualShock 4. So let's go. First up, obviously, is the core controller, the DualShock 4. Now, for all intents and purposes, it is a fantastic controller. It has many features like Bluetooth, like 6-axis motion control, a touch-sensitive pad, and of course the light bar for PlayStation VR. The only real failings that a lot of gamers are finding is actually the core ergonomics of it. As you can see, true to PlayStation legacy controllers, it has parallel thumbsticks and the D-pad up to the top left there on the controller. Now, for many gamers who were crossing over from Xbox in the previous generations, going to the DualShock 4 controller was just a little bit too foreign and a little bit too difficult to get used to, and it actually put a lot of people off, and they actually migrated back toward the Xbox platform. Now, this video is geared really toward those people, and hopefully we can show you some alternatives to maybe make you change your mind about the PlayStation platform and come back across. So what I just want to make clear is that all the offerings here are kind of like premium solutions. There are brands such as Hori which offer a more budget friendly alternatives, but this is really like the cream of the crop in terms of build quality, in terms of feature sets. And first up, it is the controller, the Ride U from PC, actually peripheral specialist Razer. Now, this is really a seriously chunky, well-built controller. And as you can see, it looks just a little bit similar to the Xbox controller as well. So they're obviously banking on the gamers who were really wanting basically an Xbox controller, but that worked flawlessly with their PlayStation. And that's exactly what Razer have done here. If you are familiar with Razer products, you will see that it looks identical to the Sabercat, which was actually Razer's core peripheral for the Xbox 360, and I believe it's actually compatible with the Xbox One as well. Now, some of the benefits for this from a third-party, an official third-party controller, is that magic touchpad right there. A lot of third-party controllers don't actually have that, so that is definitely one to watch out for, and it has a really satisfying click to it as well. It is a really, really well constructed, almost Tonka truck style level of durability. Extra features on the controller is the two little buttons here, which you can just try and make out on the just below the shoulder buttons. And actually, I don't actually have them plugged in, but they're actually two little triggers, little rocker triggers, which actually clamp onto the back there. I actually have them in the case, so we'll have a look at them in just a wee second. Other features are actually the really, really satisfying triggers. Very, very similar to the Xbox platform. And of course, the micro switch shoulder buttons as well. You can just hear them over the microphone, hopefully. And the face buttons are incredibly shallow, very much micro switch style. So just have a little listen to this. So you can really rapid fire those face buttons as well. And another cool feature is actually these slider buttons on the top here, just below the programmable buttons, which you can actually snap to the outside of the controller, to the left and right respectively, and it turns your triggers into incredibly short travel hair triggers. Really, really good for shooters. Overall, it is a good bit bigger than the DualShock 4 controller, so something to bear in mind if you have a quite larger than possibly average hand size and you want something that is just a little bit roomier and you're finding yourself a little bit cramped with the standard DualShock 4 controller. So definitely one to look at. Price wise, it is the much higher end of the spectrum. It comes in at about £150, so it's not quite as expensive as something like a Scuff controller, but it is more expensive than our next option from Nikon, which we're going to get into in just a second. Now, as I mentioned earlier, it actually has some additional accessories, and we're going to take a look at them just now. Okay, as you can see, we have now attached the triggers, and they are really quite comfortable little miniature left and right triggers. They actually look like proper triggers as opposed to paddles, which are really quite cool as well. And these are programmable, and along with the buttons just here below the shoulder, you can actually customize them to be any controller button as well in terms of that kind of mapping function. So really quite cool. Other features that this controller actually has as well is the ability to control your chat input. So you have a mute function, you have volume buttons as well, and you can actually program the buttons on the fly as well. All you do is press and hold this button just here, and then you press the button that you want to map, and then you press the button, the one of the programmable buttons, and that is you basically remap your control on the fly. So really quite impressive. But again, at £150 it is the much more expensive spectrum of the price scale, and one of its failings is that it is a fully wired controller. It uses a micro USB connection, so that is going to be a bit of a turn off for a lot of people who want to go fully wireless. It is obviously that decision because it is a competition-based controller, so it is low latency. You're not going to get any lag or anything like that. It is for competition use, which is why it is a fully wired controller. Again, one of the downsides of that is you're going to have a cable running to your controller, but also there is no motion control functions. So any games that you want to play, like Tearaway Unfolded, which are heavily reliant on the 6-axis motion controls, unfortunately you're just not going to be able to play them with this controller because it doesn't have any motion control functionality. And because it isn't wireless, you can actually turn the console on with that controller as well. So these are all things that you should bear in mind if you're looking at that. However, if you're largely just going to be focusing on like shooters, for example, or third-person action games like The Division, like Destiny, like Battlefield, those kind of games, Ghost Recon Wildlands, to name a few, then you're absolutely going to be well served there. There's no features there that are specifically to motion control functionality, therefore you won't obviously have a problem with that. Now, moving on to the next controller, and that is the Pro Controller 2 from Nikon. So, this controller is actually one of my favourite, and it's actually the one I use pretty much all the time exclusively now. I absolutely love this controller. It is incredibly comfortable to hold. As you can see, it has adopted a fully Xbox layout with the asymmetric thumbsticks. The D-pad is on the bottom row and the thumbstick is top left. Frankly, the way it should be if you are an Xbox player and love that controller to bits, like what we do here at Gamertagged. Now, the big difference here between the Razer Ride U is that this one is significantly cheaper. It comes in about $89.99. That is a UK price. So almost half the price of the Razer Ride U. Now, what do you get for something that is half the price of a premium controller such as a Razer Ride U? Is it half the build quality? Is it half the feature set? Well, honestly, guys, I don't think it is. I think it's actually better in a lot of ways than the Razer Ride U, just because of that price point. The thumbsticks, they're obviously in a much better positioning for myself as a gamer. They're actually aluminium thumbsticks, or they're metal anyway. They've got a metal ball bearing and they've got a metal thumbstick. They have a 46 degree of travel to left and right and all around. The left thumbstick is actually concaved, and this one is actually a dome shape with a little bit of a grippy, hard plastic feel to it as well. So really incredibly well put together. And the most impressive thing is actually the finish of the controller. It has this almost soft touch laminate, almost a velvety feeling to it. And honestly, it is incredibly comfortable to hold. We really like it a lot. The downside so far is I'm finding that the face buttons are actually really quite large, so you have a habit of maybe double pressing. But again, that is a very minor thing. It has happened incredibly rarely, and it's just something to watch out for because they are quite tightly bunched together and they are quite large as well. My only main gripe with this controller is actually the location of the share button. Now, this is a weird one, but bear with me. The share button is right up here, and I know it is the same position as the share button on the DualShock 4 controller, but because they've moved the thumbstick up to the top left instead of on the bottom, what I'm finding is when I'm playing it is when I want to take a picture with the share button, you have to almost arc your thumb up and over the thumbstick and then straight down. Otherwise, you're going to brush that thumbstick when you're trying to press the button. It is a niggle, believe me, it's not going to make a big deal of difference, but if you're going for that perfect like photograph, that perfect capture, then you may just like flick the thumbstick and like ruin your composition. So bear that in mind if you are big into photo modes. Now, as you can see, this controller also has that magic touchpad. The click is a little bit softer than the hard click of the Razer Ride U, and we'll have a listen just now. So it's almost completely silent, whereas you get a really good like click with the Razer Ride U. And the actual buttons themselves, the face buttons, these are definitely not micro switches. They are much more akin to the DualShock 4 controller buttons. And in terms of the triggers and the shoulder buttons, they are actually like slim profiled, almost molded into the controller, and they are incredibly satisfying. Now, the thing to bear in mind is the triggers, unlike the Razer Ride U, the DualShock 4, and the actual Xbox controller, if you're looking at that as well, those triggers tend to be pointing straight forward with a bit of a rounded corner to them. These ones are actually angled like slightly outward, almost at about I want to say like an 70-80 degree kind of angle, so your fingers don't have to wrap all the way around into the front of the trigger. They can kind of rest on the side, and you can really get a good feel for really feathering the trigger. Now, this controller doesn't actually have any hair trigger options, so you can't reduce the level of travel from the triggers, but everything is so responsive and easy to press that honestly I don't really find it too big of an issue. This controller is also fully programmable, unlike the Razer Ride U, where that controller you can do it on the fly. This one you actually have to download and install software on a PC to remap the controls. But the good thing is you have 3 modes. You have mode 1, mode 2 for 2 different profiles on your console, and you actually have a PC profile mode as well, which is really interesting. And you have a little profile switcher button there as well. Finally, we actually have some really nice little embedded paddle buttons, and they are called M1, M2, M3 and M4. Again, they are programmable as well, and they are really quite satisfying. Again, it's not the paddle option that you'll see on a SCUF controller or even the Xbox Elite controller, but they are really quite easy to just hold and like short travel press as well. And I really like this controller. It is pretty fantastic, and considering it is only $89.99, well worth a look. So again, both of these controllers have headphone ports for your party chat. The difference is that this one doesn't have the actual volume controllers directly built or molded into the controller itself. So you're going to be kind of relying on either the party chat interface on the console, or if you have a set of headphones which has a little inline controller, that's obviously what you're going to use to control the mix of chat versus gameplay. So that is a look at the Nikon Pro 2 controller. Now, I have a little bit of a wildcard option for you as well, and that is actually the Xbox One Elite controller. Now, as you can see, the Razer Ride U and the Nikon Pro 2 controller are heavily modelled on the Elite controller or the Xbox base controller as well. They're basically banking on the gamers that really want that Xbox controller, but on a PlayStation, because that is now their platform of choice. And in terms of sheer build quality and feature set, I honestly don't think there's any beating the Xbox One controller. But why on earth am I showing it on a PlayStation video? Because there is no way to use an Xbox controller on a PlayStation, right? Well, you are wrong. You are a little bit mistaken, because this little green USB adapter here, this little thing here is the stuff of magic. This is what's called a super converter from a company called Brook. They do a whole different range of them, and that allows you to use controllers from one platform and use them on another platform. For example, the green one allows you to use an Xbox One controller or an Xbox 360 controller directly on your PlayStation 4 without any input delay, without any lag, without any communication issues, and they are really quite impressive. These little guys will set you back about £40. Different platform adapters come at different prices, but the Xbox One and vice versa, the PS4 to Xbox One is a red adapter. That is also about £35 to £40 as well. Now, there are some caveats with this. Obviously, the Xbox controller is a wireless controller. wireless connectivity is obviously not going to work on your PlayStation 4 because you need to plug in the USB cable into this port right here, and this little bad boy goes straight into the console. So you've obviously lost any wireless functionality from your controller. So again, these three options are all wired. You're just going to have to, unfortunately, make do with that. But again, the flip side to that is you're not worrying about recharging your batteries or the controller dying out in the heat of a battle. So that is the trade-off that I like to think about, and going wired as opposed to wireless. Now, other things to think about are obviously programmable buttons that are specific to the Xbox controller are not going to work. That is basically just a core controller functionality. But because the hair triggers on this are mechanical and not software based, that's obviously still going to work. So you're totally covered there. And same with your paddles. But again, there's no programmability on your paddles if you're using this with a wireless adapter. The second thing to really bear in mind as well is there's no touchpad here. So you're just going to have to imagine that instead of that's the share button, that is your touchpad there. Now, that's fine for pressing that and it brings up like the map in the game, but if you are playing a game where the touchpad has like swipe functions like Killzone Shadowfall, for example, that's obviously not going to work. So you're kind of stuck there. But for the majority of third-person games where there is no swiping functionality, there is no motion control, 6-axis motion control, which obviously the Xbox Elite controller doesn't have, those games are going to be pretty, stuffed in that regard. But third-person shooters, third-party games, for the most part, you're going to be totally fine with this. Now, the last thing I want to mention as well is actually the headphone jack. Now, the headphone for party chat is not going to work if you're using the Brook adapter. That certainly wasn't at the last time I checked and used this controller. You can maybe double check the latest firmware updates, but at the time of recording this video, it didn't work. So I hear what you're asking. Why on earth would you use a controller if I want to play online with my friends and I can't actually chat to them? Well, there is an alternative there, and that is get yourself a slightly cheaper PC USB headset, because the PS4 actually recognizes USB headsets. Plug it straight into the console, and your basically your audio and your party chat will go through your USB headset straight from the console to your headset. Now, again, the downside to that is you've got a second cable running from the console to the to wherever you're sitting. So if you're sitting across the room in your living room, that's going to be a bit of a headache. But if you're in a small kind of gaming room, or if you're sitting at a desk and you like to game there, that's not really a big issue. But I did want to show you this kind of wildcard alternative. If you are absolutely in love with your Xbox One Elite controller, well, you can actually use it on your DualShock 4, on your PlayStation 4 without any issues at all, without any connectivity issues, without any lag issues. And honestly, it is quite alarming when the first time you use this controller on your PS4. It is really quite funny, but it took some getting used to, but I thought this is just like black magic voodoo or something. I don't know how they've managed to do it, but honestly, it is definitely an option worth considering. However, if you want to stick with an official branded controller, then honestly, I cannot recommend enough the Nikon Pro 2 controller. It's almost half the price of the Razer Ride U. The build quality, I think, is actually better. There are less programmable buttons than there are as the Razer Ride U. There's obviously no inline chat molded into the controller itself, but in terms of capturing that Xbox asymmetric thumbstick configuration in terms of comfort, honestly, I think it's the absolute winner. So guys, if you are looking for a new controller, definitely check out the Nikon controller. Let us know in the comments if you are thinking about switching from a DualShock 4 to another third-party controller, but you didn't know which one to go for, and this video has maybe helped you out. Or if this video has maybe just cemented your decision in another direction, let us know in the comments. And if you have enjoyed this video, do remember to give us a like and a thumbs up, share it, tell your friends about it, and hopefully we'll see you on the next one. Take care, bye bye.